efficacy of the game. So a little bit about us. Orcus is a healthcare technology company. We're located in Eugene, Oregon, and we create self-management programs to improve physical and emotional well-being. We develop technology-based programs that are evidence-based and scientifically validated. And to us, that means three things. Behavior change theory and learning theory are foundational to our content and approach. We work with content experts as consultants and co-investigators, and all of our programs are tested for efficacy through research trials, typically through randomized controlled trials. Our mission is to create a culture of health, one life at a time. We were funded by the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute through their Small Business Innovative Research Grant Process, SBIR, and this is a grant mechanism for for-profit companies. And the goal of our project was to develop a web-based intervention for young children aged 5 through 10 with asthma, and their parents or primary caregivers, and to evaluate the program. So this is, oh wait a minute, I went too fast, sorry. So I'm going to give you just an overview of what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk a little bit about the impact of asthma on children. I'll describe how we combine theoretically based messaging, instructional design, and game mechanics to develop the game. So I'll kind of take a little peek under the hood and show you what we did to develop the game. And I'm going to show some of the game too, and that's the fun part. And I'll also show you the results of the randomized controlled trial that we did that proved the efficacy of the game. So this is a program, and a presentation about evaluation research, and it's also about a game for health, a game that is targeting health outcomes. So I just wanted to find out why you're here today, what aspect of my presentation interests you the most. So I'm just going to ask for a show of hands. I have 3 questions for you, very simple yes or no questions. Actually, just a yes question, just raise your hand. And you can answer more than one question if you want to. So how many of you are researchers? Okay, oh, looks like 1. How many of you come from the product development side of things? Okay, about half of you here, maybe more than half. And how many have had experience with games for health, either playing them or developing them? Okay, maybe about a third. All right, so thanks for answering the questions, and I think I have something for everyone today. So first, why did we choose childhood asthma as our area of focus? Number one is it's a public health issue. It's one of the most common childhood chronic illnesses. 1 in 11 children are currently diagnosed with asthma in the US. Prevalence is rising, and asthma is expensive to our healthcare system. Asthma costs $56 billion a year, and that's children and adults. I actually couldn't find a good figure for just children. They usually show it combined. Half of all children with asthma report that they've had an asthma attack within the last year, within the last 12 months. So this is an important metric because it serves as a measure of uncontrolled asthma. Asthma is a leading cause of missed school days for chronic illness, and there are other quality of life issues. Children with asthma are less able to participate fully in sports, in play activities, and exercise. They may suffer from anxiety or depression, and almost half of children with asthma, 44%, rate their health as fair or poor. So you can see that asthma is a rather large burden for young children to carry. As part of the formative research, before we developed our asthma game, we did a series of focus groups in 3 regions of the country with a diverse set of children with asthma and their parents. And our focus groups confirmed everything that I just said about the impact of asthma on children. We heard a lot of comments about poor quality of life and the physical limitations that children had due to their asthma. Now, the good news is that asthma is treatable. And the really good news is that people with asthma, both children and adults, can live happy, active, healthy lives and still have asthma if they keep their asthma in good control. If they keep their asthma in good control, they don't have all the problems that I just talked about and don't incur as much cost to the healthcare system. In fact, that's the goal of asthma treatment, is to keep your asthma in good control. And good control is defined by the clinical guidelines for the treatment and management of asthma by these things I've listed on this slide. Having no chronic or troubling symptoms during the day, at night, or after exercise, so that's pretty much all the time, not having any symptoms. Using your quick relief medication only 2 days a week or less, and having no limitation on physical activity due to your asthma. To achieve good asthma control, the child and the parent have to engage in a number of self-management behaviors. They need to monitor and respond to symptoms. They need to use the medications correctly, understand the two different types of medications, control and quick relief. They need to manage their triggers and keep the lines of communication open with their healthcare provider. It's a lot to learn, and it's a lot to do, and it's ongoing. Asthma is a chronic disease, is with you every day, and you need to be doing these self-management behaviors every single day. And that's why patient education is so critical, so that the child and the parent learn more about asthma, learn how to manage it, and know the importance of following their treatment plan, especially their medication regimen. So while asthma education is ideally delivered by the healthcare provider, by the doctor or an asthma educator or a nurse educator or someone in the healthcare provider's office, often office visits are too short and there's not enough time allowed to cover every topic. And there's a lot of information in each of these topics: medications, triggers, symptoms. So this is where we came in. We wanted to develop a program for children that was engaging and fun for the younger child, and that would reinforce but not necessarily replace what they were learning from their healthcare provider. So something that was fun and engaging for children. What do you think we thought about? Anybody? A game. We thought about a game for kids. In fact, when we asked parents in our focus groups what we should do, what format we should develop for the kids, that's what came up. Hands down was a game. So as you know, there's a lot of interest in games for health for both children and adults. And these are games that target health outcomes, that ideally incorporate behavioral theory and learning theory, and that use some of the elements of game mechanics. And there's some typical elements that are usually incorporated within a game for health that I've listed here. They usually have a storyline or a fantasy setting. They use rules of play. There's challenge, as in earning points or earning badges or leveling up to the next level of difficulty. There's mystery or curiosity, trying to figure out what's around the next corner or what's in the next level of difficulty. And some amount of user control where the user, the person playing the game, can make choices in the game that affect the environment of the game or the gameplay. Oh, and also sensory stimuli, having dramatic sounds, music, colors, colorful shapes. So there's a growing body of research on games for health, including games for children with asthma, and some of these have been evaluated and found effective. Games for health is a relatively new field, and it's a growing field. Researchers and buyers have called for more scientific validation to prove their effectiveness. So when we publish the paper that's associated with this presentation, we'll be helping to advance the science in this field of games for health. And I've shown you some examples of games for children with asthma that have been developed, evaluated, and published within the last 10 years or so. And I have a reference list at the back of my slide deck that you'll have with you that gives you the full citation for these the articles about these games. And I just want to make one note on the second game, the Bronchi game, Bronchi the Bronchiosaurus. This was developed by Deborah Lieberman, and she is the executive director of Health Games Research. And this is a center at the University of California, Santa Barbara, and it was funded by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and their mission is to advance the science and evaluation of games for health. They have a very good website. You'd find it by searching for Health Games Research. They have a lot of information about games for health, and there's peer-reviewed articles available on that site. Deborah Lieberman is also an associate editor of the online and print journal Games for Health, and a woman from that organization, the company that publishes that journal, came by just before the presentation and left some copies of Games for Health. And so there's several up here if you want to take one before you leave. It's an excellent journal. Lots of articles about, peer-reviewed articles about Games for Health that have been evaluated. So game-based education for children can be effective, and there are other advantages. Access and use. 60% of children aged 6 and older play some type of digital game. And a typical child age 8 through 10 spends about 12 hours a week playing video games or using a computer. So the video games would be played on like a PlayStation, Xbox, or a Wii, or playing games on the computer. So how many of you play games on your device of choice? So maybe about half of you, is that it? More than half. Okay, so let me give you some stats, and this is from Pew from 2008, and it was the most recent data I could find. I'll start with the older age group. So if you're in the people 65 and older, 23% of those play some type of game on their computer, on their smartphone, or a tablet. And people in the age range 50 to 64, 40%. And if you're 30 to 50, 60%. So the younger you are, the more you play games. And the younger group, 18 to 29, 81% play games. As people age into the older age cohorts, it's going to just increase. More and more people will be playing games on their device. Now, the other reason to use game-based learning is the engagement factor, the motivation factor. Games are fun. In a well-designed game, the child, and the adult for that matter, will play, and they'll keep on playing because it's fun. They want to earn the points, earn the badges, find out what's around the next corner or on the next level of difficulty, really just for the sheer fun of playing the game. And that's a good game if you want to just keep on playing it. They're not doing it for any other reason, not because anyone told them to do it, and not for any external reward. So within a learning environment, this type of engagement or intrinsic motivation is critical for learning to take place. I believe that intrinsic motivation is just absolutely essential for ongoing health behavior change. An intrinsically motivated person is more engaged in the behaviors they adopt and more likely to maintain them. A person may need some type of external or extrinsic motivation to get started on a behavior, to start something, but internal motivation has to kick in order to sustain it. The behavior has to become internalized, personalized. That's how it becomes more real and more meaningful to the person. And that's how the person owns their learning and they own their behavior change. And really, isn't that the prize, the buried treasure? Isn't that the goal of all of our health interventions, that the person owns their learning and they own their behavior change? Because really, they're the only ones that can do it. They're the only ones that can do the behavior that they need to adopt keep on exercising or eat healthy. We can't do it for them. I'm going to get a little closer here because the pointer doesn't work very well. And so if a child plays an asthma game and they play it, they keep on playing it because it's fun. The game has engaged them. They're just really into the game. They just want to keep on playing. And the game teaches about asthma management. Well, then maybe the child will manage their asthma better. And that's the desired outcome. That's the goal. That's why we develop games for health, for engagement. So now, this brings us back to our project goal. Knowing that asthma is an important public health issue for children, and that children and families need self-management education, that computer and game-based education can be effective, we developed and evaluated a game for children aged 5 through 10 and a resource informational website for parents. So, why did we choose the younger age range? We saw a need. Starting at around age 5, children are spending more time away from home. They're in school, they're in after-school activities like sports or play. They're at friends' home or they're visiting with relatives independent of their parents. And so this is an important time for children, even as young as age 5, to start to learn more about their asthma, learn how to manage it as much as they can for their age and stage of development. So after we developed the instructional objectives for our game and the parents' website, this is when we partnered with the American Lung Association and we negotiated a contract with them to work with their national asthma program staff to develop the content for the intervention and to help us recruit participants for the evaluation study. We felt really privileged to be able to work with the Lung Association. They're the go-to place for asthma, for families looking for information about asthma. And the Lung Association was looking for interactive materials. They've had really good materials on their website and in print, but they wanted something that was more current, more innovative, and interactive. So we developed Lungtropolis, an asthma game for children. And I'm going to have the doctor in our program just give you an overview of the game. He's going to describe the storyline. So I'm going to introduce you now to Dr. Al Violet, and he's the narrator in the asthma game. It's not entirely seamless, so we'll just have a few moments of silence here. There we go.
Hi, I'm Dr. Olay with the Asthma Control Agency. We're out to defeat the mucus mob and need your help. It's going to be a slimy job as the mucus mob has taken control of Lungtropolis. Your mission is to become an asthma control agent and fight the mucus mob. Hurry, we don't have a lot of time. The city's health depends on you. Now for a little history. Once upon a time, the twin cities of Lungtropolis were full of life. The people who lived there were healthy, and the streets were clean. But nobody has been taking care of these cities, and now the slimy mucus mob bosses and their gang have taken over. They've clogged the streets, making them narrow and hard for people to move and breathe freely, especially people with asthma.
So you can see the storyline is the Twin Cities of Lungtropolis, and these are in the shape of the two lungs, have been overcome by the mucus mob, and that's the green that you see on the lungs, on the cities. And the child who's playing the game becomes an asthma control agent and is helping Dr. Olay clean up the cities from the mucus mob by going through the path that winds through the lungs and clicking on the circles and the stars and doing things. At each star, there's a mini game that the child plays and an instructional video, and I'll show you an example of one of those. And at each circle is a question to reinforce the content from the video. And as the child goes through and answers questions and does things correctly, the lungs turn pink again, and so at the end, the lungs are pink and healthy. So this is a look at the parents' website. The parents have mainly text and graphics, although we did incorporate some of the brief animated videos from the children's game into some of the pages in the parents' site as appropriate for the content. And we did include some interactive features as we could. There's a medicines quiz that troubleshoots some of the common barriers to medications compliance. And we have an asthma action plan form, and this is the form that the American Lung Association uses. The parent can print it and take it to their healthcare provider to fill out with their child's information. And we also developed something that we call the asthma checkup checklist, where the parent goes through and chooses questions they want to ask their doctor next time they're there, and concerns and issues. And this is a printout that all the questions and concerns compile to a printout. And it's a way of going to your next doctor appointment with your child a little bit more prepared to have a full discussion about their child's asthma. So next I'm going to show you how we used health behavior change theory in the instructional content, and this is kind of a peek under the hood here. And we knew that we were developing a game, and we knew it had to be fun for the child. Fun is why you would have a game, but we also knew it had to impart knowledge and promote behaviors. And to do that well, the game needed to be based on good instructional design and behavior change theory. We want to be able to use evidence-based interventions based on behavioral theory because they are more effective. We use social cognitive theory as our main theoretical base, and this describes learning and behavior as being influenced by a number of factors, including the knowledge that the person has about the behavior, and in this theory, knowledge is sometimes called behavioral capability. Also modeling, a person can learn by watching other people do the behavior, and self-efficacy or self-confidence. The more confident you are about performing a behavior, the more likely you are to do it. So the knowledge or teaching portions of the game are embedded within very short animated videos with voiceover, and it's Dr. Olay that does the voiceover. They're 30 or 40 seconds long, or even less. We worked really, really hard to pare down the narration and the content to as short as we could to accommodate a child's short attention span, and also not to crowd too much content in so that the child could learn it in little pieces. And I'm going to show you now an example of one of the instructional videos, and this one is on control medicine.
Your control medicine is different from your quick relief medicine. If your doctor gives you a control medicine, he wants you to take it every day. Your control medicine might be an inhaler, nebulizer, pills, or liquid. Even if you're feeling okay, you should still take your control medicine daily. Asthma control medicine keeps your airways from swelling up and being bothered by triggers. And it helps you to stay healthy and feeling good.
So that was really short. It was about 27 seconds. So that's an example of just how short they have to be to keep kids' attention. So what was the concept that we were teaching in that video? Anybody? Concept about control medicine. Take it every day. Yeah, I heard that. And how did we portray that? Something sliding by, the days sliding by, really simple imagery, but effective, I think. Day after day after day, you have to take your control medicine. That's the message. So we also wanted to address the sense of physical limitations that we heard from the children and parents in our focus groups, and that we know about from the impact of asthma on children. We wanted to increase the children's self-efficacy about being a child with asthma, that you can run and play and be outside and do all the things that you want to do and still have asthma. And you do that by practicing good self-management behaviors that keep your asthma in good control. And here in our graphics, we see self-efficacy at work, physically active, healthy children. And this little girl holding her quick relief inhaler up in front of her warning signs, showing her self-confidence to respond to her warning signs. I can confidently respond to my asthma warning signs. And she's in a very confident stance here. So throughout the game, messages and images were designed to influence the child's attitudes about self-management behavior. We used positive words and images of active, healthy kids with their asthma obviously in good control. And this is a prime example of modeling, our superhero busting through his asthma triggers and warning signs. So after each of the instructional videos, we asked one or two questions, and that was a little circles on the map. When the child landed on a circle, a question came up, and this was to reinforce the content from the video. And we used a mastery learning format to remediate the responses. And the basic concepts of mastery learning are that assessment takes place right away after you present the content. And the learner is given every opportunity to succeed, and success has to take place before the learner can move forward. And I'm going to show you an example of how we use mastery learning in the asthma game with this question that appears after the control medicine video. And the question is, what does taking asthma control medicine do for you? And this would be read out loud for the child by the Dr. Olay narrator. Everything that has text associated with it in the game is read out loud because we're dealing with the younger age group, 5 through 10. Sometimes we're dealing with pre-readers or low readers. So the choices are, and the choices would be read out loud too, it keeps your parent happy, it can stop an asthma attack, or it keeps triggers from bothering you. And I'm going to choose the second answer. I think it might be it can stop an asthma attack. So I'm going to click on that box and then submit it. And I'm going to find out that that's the wrong answer. A red X will come over the box, and Dr. Olay's voice will say to me, try again. It's about your triggers. So I've got a pointer now. It's a hint to the correct answer. And now I think, okay, I'm going to try that third one. I'm going to click on it. Keeps triggers from bothering you. So I click there and submit it, and then Dr. Olay gives me praise and accolades for getting the right answer. He says, that's right, taking control medicine keeps triggers from bothering you. And he says the answer out loud, again, to reinforce the content, to help the child learn the content. And we get a score, 500 points. And as the child goes through, the child may realize that scores are dependent on how well they answer the questions. If I'd answered it correctly the first time, I would have gotten 1,000 points, and then the second try, 500, and then the third try, 250. So you always get some points. It never goes down to 0. And this is a very simple example of mastery learning with only 3 possible responses and giving the child a hint. So now I'm going to go to a little game theory, and then I'll show you one of the games. So we have two mini games inside the larger game of Lungtropolis. We have a matching game and a race car game. And the matching game is an example of what's called an exogenous game. Exo meaning outside of, and that means that the story and rules of the game are not related to the content being taught. The child is supposed to match these little blobby things, the blobby colored things, match 2 or 3, and then they disappear, and the idea is to clear. It's I'm sure you've seen matching games. They're all very, very similar. But these sort of represent the mucus mob. So the child is told that they have to clear this board of the mucus mob. But that's not really about asthma management. Clearing the board of mucus creatures isn't about asthma management. So really this is an exogenous game. We did force some content into the matching game by having Dr. Olay give some instructional content during his narration, during the gameplay, and you'll hear it. I'm going to play a video now that shows you the matching game.
Warning, Agent! You're approaching a mucus base. Take this mucus blaster to help clear the mucus mob. Your mission, Asthma Agent, is to clear the mucus mob from the building. Click on the matching mucus with your blaster to vaporize them and fill up your mucus meter. While you fill up your meter, you will release special Tell an Adult blasters that will vaporize a group of the mucus mob with one click. Listen up, Agent. After recognizing your warning signs, it's important to tell an adult how you feel. Good luck and good breathing. Play. Ready, set, go! Super! You've earned your first blaster. When you feel signs of asthma during play, it's important to stop and tell an adult right away. Take that! Great mucus mashing! You've earned another blaster. When you feel sick, don't delay. Tell an adult right away. Nice move! Wow! You're a natural. Warning signs are important to know. Tell an adult when they start to show. Show them who's in control. Woohoo! Good one.
In the interest of time, I'm going to stop it there, but it does get cleared. It gets all the way done. So did you hear the content that Dr. Olay was giving us? Yeah. What was it? Yeah, that's one of the steps that you're supposed to take when you feel your asthma symptoms. You got it. So now we've been sitting here for a while, and I've been talking for a while, and you've probably sat in other sessions too. So now we're going to play a game, and that's the 3 people that I gave the big bags to. Pass those out, will you? There's things in there. There's mucus mobs are in there. Pass them out just randomly around the room. Let's do this kind of quick. This is just a little interaction for you guys. And then I've got some small bags around the room. There's orange, there's yellow, there's red. You see the small bags? So whoever's got a small bag, pick that up. Come on, you guys, small bags. So here's the game. Let me show you the rules. So the mucus mob is invading the room. Do you see it? These mucus mobster people are passing out the mob. So we have to stop them. And the people with the small bags, you're the collectors. I want you to get put all the orange mucus mobs in the orange bag, all the purple in the purple, all the green in the green. And the rule is you can't move from your seat. You can stand, but you can't walk. You have to cooperate to do this. So there's 4 of each color. We'll just see how many you can get in like 1 minute. Hey, you're not supposed to walk. The rule is you can stand at your chair. No, you can stand at your chair, but you can't walk. This is a game of cooperation. And then the one who gets when you get 4 of one color in the bag, bring it up, and the first one up gets a prize. Oh, do we have green? All right, we got a winner. What's your name? Carolyn. All right, that's it. Carolyn, you get a prize. She gets a bag of mini mobs, mini mucus mobs. Okay, so that was a way to get us up and doing something. And there were some game mechanics in this. Do you remember that list of game mechanics that I talked about earlier? What were they? Did we do some of those just now? Yeah? Well, that wasn't one of them, but I did emphasize that. How about rules of play? Did we have that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, time is a rule, definitely. Was there some challenge? Yeah. Storyline? Was there a storyline? Kinda. Mucus mob invading the room. And we had sensory stimuli. Weren't these the cutest things you ever saw? And they're colorful. Okay, well, thanks for indulging me. So I am getting a little short on time, so I'm just going to talk about this second game. I'm not going to show it to you. It's a little bit long. The second game is a race car game, and this is an example of an endogenous game. An endo meaning from within, and it sometimes also means intrinsic. In this type of game, the learning content is related to the narrative and rules of the game. And we use the racetrack as a metaphor for the airways. As the child navigates the track and hits triggers and that brown blob there at the bottom of the screen that represents the triggers, the car slows down and loses power. And if the car hits enough triggers, then the roadway, narrows and gets red. And you can see that red striping on both sides of the roadway. And that's to represent the constriction and inflammation of the airways. And the content within the racing game is about using your control medicine and how important that is, and also your quick relief. So it's about the 2 types of medication. And then the car, you have to go into the control medicine car wash. If you miss it, if you don't go in, then you get more triggers and your car slows down. So eventually you learn that you have to go into the control medicine car wash. And this teaches you about the importance of using your control medicine to keep your lungs healthy. So game developers don't necessarily use these terms, exogenous and endogenous. They don't walk around their offices or studios saying these terms out loud to each other. Only research geeks like me use those terms. But they understand the concepts, and they use these concepts. Researchers have found that endogenous games tend to immerse the player more deeply into the fantasy or the storyline of the game. And as I said earlier, this type of engagement increases learning outcomes. So in the race car game, seeing the roadway get narrow when the car hits triggers, the child might think, I need to avoid my triggers, or they will slow me down and make my airways narrow and tight, because that's what's happening in the game. Or going into the control medicine car wash, the child may think, I need to take my control medicine to stay well, to keep my lungs healthy. So when we were done developing the game and the parents' website, then we conducted an efficacy trial. We recruited children and parents in pairs. We had 311 pairs of child-parent pairs for a total of 622 participants. The participants that were randomized to the treatment condition received access to Lungtropolis kids and Lungtropolis parents. And the control participants were emailed a PDF version of the CRAMES booklets, all about asthma, for the child, and asthma and your child for the parents. And we did recruitment nationally through the American Lung Association. We had 3 assessments, online assessments, over 45 days. Everything for the study was done online. Recruitment for participants, all the assessments, and the program, of course, except for the consent. We wanted to do a phone consent. We called each parent and described the study to them and talked them through the informed consent for themselves and for the child. The parent consented for themselves and the child. We had an excellent response rate to our online assessments. 96% of our children and parents completed all 3 assessments. And that's really high in our experience. So I like to think that in our study we had a highly intrinsically motivated group of people working with us to evaluate our asthma program. The children's surveys included voiceover, graphics, as you can see here, and large text and buttons to click on. The voiceover read the questions out loud to the child, and there was an option to have the response choices read out loud as well. We worked really hard to develop a good but spare set of measures, a set of questions for the child to make the instrument brief and usability high. We did a lot of usability testing on paper with the questions and online to make it really usable for children in this age group. There were 13 assessment questions measuring the theoretical constructs of knowledge, self-efficacy, and attitudes. And this is an example of a self-efficacy question. I can tell when I'm having asthma warning signs. And here's an example of a knowledge question. We used a thumbs up icon for true, and a thumbs down icon for not true, and a question mark for I don't know. And some demographics. Our sample was majority boys, and as you can see, our group of kids were majority white with 15% African American and 15% Hispanic. The average age of the child was about 9, so it was towards the older end of our age range. And 86% of the sample had been living with asthma for 2 or more years. Now to our evaluation results, we conducted analysis of covariance models and COVAs to determine if there were any significant differences between treatment group and control group children on the assessment items that were a scale item, and that was the knowledge scale. We had 1 scale item, and we did find that children in the treatment group had significantly higher knowledge scores compared to controls. So that was children who used the asthma game compared to children who had access to a booklet. And then again, at post-test, at 45-day follow-up, knowledge gains persisted. Now we did have some item level data, but not enough items to make up scales for self-efficacy and attitudes, and we found no between group differences on those. We also did some dose response analysis. We wanted to find out if Children who used the game more often showed more improvement in outcomes compared to children who used it less. And we found that that was true. Those who used the game 2 or more times compared to those who used it only once had significantly improved scores on two of the constructs, and I've listed them here. One was a self-efficacy item. I can tell when I'm having asthma warning signs. And the other one was an attitude item. My asthma medicines keep me healthy. And we had medium effect sizes on these. And these are important constructs. Being able to recognize your asthma warning signs is important to self-management, hopefully in order to head off an asthma attack or manage it sooner. Also, children in this age range don't always know how they're feeling in their bodies. They can't always describe how they feel and can't always know their symptoms. So this is a good outcome, that they are feeling more confident about knowing that when their asthma is getting worse. And the other item, my asthma medicines keep me healthy. There's a strong connection between a person's beliefs about their medicine and their medication compliance. So a child who thinks that the asthma medicine will help them, will keep them healthy, perhaps is more inclined to keep on taking it every day, day after day, like we saw in the control medicine video. We looked at use in the game. Average time inside the game was 77 minutes. And we asked some usability questions. We had a high likability rating, and children endorsed the concept that playing the game would help them. Now to look at the parents' results. We found significant between-group differences in the self-efficacy scale, with treatment group parents having higher self-efficacy scores compared to controls. And the self-efficacy items that we asked about measured the parents' confidence in 2 areas: administering their child's medication correctly and responding appropriately to an asthma attack. So parents who used our website showed more self-confidence in these 2 domains of self-confidence about managing their child's asthma compared to the parents who read the Crames booklet. We asked the treatment group parents to tell us their perceptions of their child's use of the asthma game, and we had high ratings on that, and I'll let you look at that on your own when you look at the slides later. I do want to talk about just some closing comments, and then I'll have time for some questions. We would have liked to have seen more between-group improvements in scores for both the children and the parents among the treatment group participants. We did see improvements in knowledge, self-efficacy, and attitudes for the children, and self-efficacy for the parents after program use, and this did match our behavioral model, social cognitive theory, and similar findings have been reported from previous asthma games for children, the games that I showed you on that earlier slide that have been published within recent years. Because of the short follow-up period, we had 45 days from the first assessment to the last one, the third assessment. We really could not and did not measure healthcare utilization. And because the study was done entirely online, and this was by design, we could not directly assess symptoms. For our future development, we plan to develop the child's game as a responsive design so that it displays on any size of device, a mobile phone or any size of tablet, as well as on a desktop. Right now it's just available on a desktop computer. We would like to be able to measure actual behavior, so we would like to, for example, we would integrate a medications monitoring device with the child's use of the game. And also, about 90% of our sample of children had been living with asthma for 2 or more years. So perhaps we might see larger effect sizes from an evaluation with children who were new to asthma, who had just been recently diagnosed, say within 2 years or less. So this is an hypothesis that we could test in another study. And my personal goal I would like to advance to the hard level. There's an easy level and there's a hard level on the racing game. And every time I play the hard level, I don't get very far because my car gets bumped off the track. But I'm going to keep on trying. And I was reading Jane Donegal's book the other day on the plane on the way out here, Reality is Broken. And she says that, she calls it failure fun or fun failure, that failure engages you. It gives you the hope of success. So I guess I have the hope of success to do better at the racing game. And actually, this is a type of intrinsic motivation to do better at a game. So a game has to be good enough and have to engage you well in order to keep on playing it and want to do better at it. So here's my contact information and also my list of references. This is a list of peer-reviewed articles about games for health. And these are articles about computer-based interventions for for children with asthma. And these two sites are good peer-reviewed sources of peer-reviewed articles for Games for Health. And one is the Games for Health journal that I already mentioned, and the other is the Journal of Medical Internet Research, JMIR. Okay, so I think we might have time for some questions. Anybody?
What do you plan to take this from here?
Taking it from here, right now it's available on the internet for anyone to use. We don't know exactly how long, but we are looking to negotiate some contracts or license agreements with healthcare plans or organizations that would like to provide it to their covered individuals. We would brand it for them if they want to. I know I'm not supposed to talk about marketing in the, but yeah, we want to license it or develop sponsorships for it. And again, we want to also develop it as responsive design, so you can use it on any kind of device. Yeah, John. Jan, is it Jan? Jan, sorry.
Maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention, but there was a difference between one-time website users and more than one.
Right.
So when you took all the website users from the point of view of intention to treat versus the control group, what was the impact? Did you achieve statistically significant improvement?
Yeah, right. So we looked at dose response among the treatment group children who use the game. And we found significance in two of the constructs, the item level constructs, a self-efficacy item and an attitudes item.
For two visits?
Two what?
For individuals?
Yeah, for two or more.
For two or more?
Yeah.
But how about the whole group? Now, everyone that was assigned to the web-based game bucket, how did those questions perform in terms of control?
Oh, okay, well, the knowledge scale, the treatment children did significantly better than the control.
And for everybody assigned to the website?
Right, everybody, the entire group of treatment kids. Yeah, just the knowledge scale. That's why we did the dose response analysis, to see if there was anything else.
But I guess on the self-efficacy, if you included just the one website folks, that you were unable to show an improvement versus control. Is that true?
I guess I don't understand the question.
There were two arms to the study, the control group and the folks assigned to the game.
Right.
For all persons assigned to the game, all of them, not just one visit, not just two visits,
Right.
not just three visits, everyone assigned to that game. Was there any difference for the total cohort assigned to the game versus just the control group in terms of self-efficacy?
No, it had to do with the analysis of just the treatment group, looking at the self-efficacy and attitudes. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, Robert?
So the parents think that the child would play the game frequently. From what, I mean, I don't know enough about the game, but are there new challenges in the game, or do they sort of get it and move on?
Right, they sort of get it and move on. Each of the mini games is played 3 times, and it gets progressively harder each time they play it. So you play the matching game 3 times, and you play the race car game 3 times. And then the race car game has 2 levels, and the hard level is very hard.
So it will continue to be very hard.
Yes,
Or
it probably
there's
would
no
be.
challenge to play that game.
Yeah, it probably would be challenging to keep on playing that game, and kids like the racing game.
So they don't just play it for 10 times and stop.
Right.
They know that they play it over weeks.
Yeah, well, in the research study, we did have how many times people were in the game, and I had that data up there. It wasn't a huge amount of time that people were in it. 10 or, like, I don't know, 10 or more times over 45 days. Mhm.
So, I mean, but it's not viewed as a game you play for a year or two. It's not like having Nazi zombies coming after you like forever.
Yeah, because it doesn't like morph into another story or another level. Yeah, that's why it might be good for kids who are newly diagnosed with asthma to learn about it. To learn kind of the basics. Yeah.
In the examples you had on the question, in which the second choice for the long acting is clearly wrong, and the third answer was the correct one. Just understand that 2 children who have asthma, and obviously in our case it's well managed now. But early on, the first answer to the question was something about would your parents be happy?
It makes my parents happy.
And in effect, that's an answer that a 4 or 5-year-old or a 7-year-old would even understand because it clearly is something that we push out to them. Nice job, you took your name. So did you look at any of that or see that maybe some of those questions might be
No.
it's almost like a partial answer was correct?
Yeah, you're right. No, we didn't look at that. But yeah, they could say that, and the child would think it would be correct.
And might that then they think, well, dang, that's not the right answer if they're a young kid.
Right.
But it actually is.
But then we point them to the correct answer, the one that we're looking for, and that they were just taught, of course.
Right, but we hope you didn't teach them that it's actually not true.
Right.
Parents have to be.
Yeah, yeah. Point well taken. Anyone else? Okay, thank you.